The following show is a Pod Avenue production. You are cordially invited to have dinner with the King. Pull up a chair and join WWE Hall of Famer Jerry the King Lawler and Glenn Moore. Enjoy.
Another episode of Dinner with the King. I am your co-host, Glenn Moore. Joining me, as always, is WWE Hall of Famer, the man of the hour this past weekend for the Royal Rumble, or the Royal...
You almost did what I did.
Royal Rumble, for his commentary during the men's Royal Rumble. That is Jerry the King Lawler. How you doing, King?
I'm good, Glenn. And yeah, I did. And let's get that right out of the way. Let's address the elephant in the room. And I'm not talking about you. What? What? I said Rumble Royal one time during the match, I think. But I corrected myself immediately. But it's so funny. It's like people are out there with their hand on their, on their social media, with their phone or whatever it is that they use. They just get their finger waiting to hit send and criticize and jump on the slightest mistake that anybody makes, But anyway, that was probably one of many that I made during that match. But I thought the Royal Rumble was awesome. I really enjoyed doing it, and I must be honest, I have done some Royal Rumbles in the past that I didn't really enjoy. That I just, even while I'm calling the match, I'm thinking, this is not a very good match. But I mean, while I was calling this one Sunday night, I was thinking, this is a great match. This is really exciting.
Yeah, I thought it was the men's was great, and we'll talk about what happened with the women's and the big debut of a superstar, Ronda Rousey. We'll talk about her in a few moments. But Jerry, I'm big on social media. I'm always monitoring.
You're big on everything, Glenn. You're a big guy. I'm just, when you came down to spend all that time with me in Memphis several times, I would marvel at your size. You're just, I'm not saying that in a derogatory way.
I'm not that big.
You're a big guy.
You've wrestled some bigger guys.
No, you're how tall are you?
I'm about 6'2.5".
Yeah, I'd say 6'3". What do you weigh?
I don't know.
What do you mean? Why is that? When you get on a scale, it just
I'm very
cries?
self-conscious about my weight, King.
Does it say one at a time, please, or what?
I break the scale. It goes to triple zeros.
Oh, you'd have to be weight on the Richter scale then.
Oh boy.
No, I'm just all weight jokes. But no kidding. You're not fat at all, but you're just big. I mean, you look like a wrestler.
I know. Well, when I used to work in sports media, when I covered Browns games, I would be, walking, the walk in for the, you've been not backstage with the tunnels. Yeah. You walk by the home and visitor locker room. So I had my bag with, my stuff for doing the show. I used to do shows for Browns games, and I would be, security I would walk past the visitor locker room, and security would stop me and say, "Oh, the locker room's right here, sir."
Yeah, they think you're probably like a defensive lineman or offensive lineman.
I think I'm a player. I'm like, no, definitely not a player. I'm just part of the media. But no, I mean, thank you for saying that, but I know you mean it differently.
No, I don't. I really don't. And I don't even know where we were going with that. But what were we talking about when we got off the subject?
I don't know. Let's get off of the weight here. And well, I have to make you a correction about last week's show.
Uh-oh.
I made a mistake.
No.
Remember we were talking about Max Moon?
You used to tell me you never make a mistake. Or no, what is it? You're not always right, but you're never wrong. That's what you used to say.
Well, when you were talking about people who have their fingers on the social media, ready to correct anything you say, or
oh my gosh, don't tell me that was wrong about Max Moon, because I said it on WWE. I said it on the pre-show.
No, it's you. I mean, no, you.
I did eliminate Max Moon, right?
Correct. Yeah, but the identity.
It wasn't who you said he was.
The identity of Max Moon, it was during that match was different than Conan. Obviously, Conan played Max Moon for a short time in WWF, but
I knew it wasn't Conan.
But it was Paul Diamond.
Oh, was it really? Yes, It was Paul Diamond. You're right. He was up there with, matter of fact, they had gone from our Memphis territory. Paul Diamond and Pat Tanaka were up there.
Yeah. So
yeah.
It was Paul.
Man, who caught you? Who caught you on that mistake?
I forget the person, but
may have been Paul Diamond.
No, I know it was
still around.
No, here, yeah, he was. Well, Paul Diamond. I'm looking at his wiki. He's 56 years old. Says he's still alive. So yeah, I think he was.
He says he's still alive at 56.
Well,
sure, you should still be alive.
Well, I mean, come on, wrestlers nowadays. I mean, unfortunately,
come on.
Unfortunately, we've had some people pass away, but I mean, yeah. So I got corrected by this person. I realized that I was incorrect, and I wanted to go back and delete it during the show. You know, I can go back and delete parts of the show if I want to, but I decided to keep it in there.
Yeah, no problem.
So, but I wanted to correct myself.
Especially now that we've corrected it.
Yeah, so I corrected myself. So it was Paul Diamond, not Conan, when you eliminated Max Moon for the Royal Rumble. But yeah, you mention it on the pre-show.
I did.
There was a great bit on the pre-show with Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, and you know, obviously
that wasn't a bit. That really just happened.
It was organic.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was not said, you know, beforehand. That was not anything that was supposed to just happen like that. It just, like I said, they just didn't want to talk to Pete, and I got a little story. Speaking of Pete too, they didn't want to speak to Pete or Renee Young, and they said Jerry Lawler could ask us a question. So we wound up having the most of the conversation was between me and those two guys. You know.
Yeah. So that was a great one. You know, Owens and Zayn will only take questions from you because, you know, you're the king. You're the king. So then you had the Royal Rumble.
And let me get back to Pete Rosenberg, right?
Well, he got his name right the first time. Good for you, Ken.
Well, that's because I got called on the carpet, so to speak.
Called on the carpet.
You know what that means?
Do not.
That's an old expression when you get called on the carpet. I guess would be called in by your boss, or like it's akin to getting sent to the principal's office for an adult. You know, a kid. Oh, I got sent to the principal's office, and as an adult, I got called on the carpet. That means you had to, you know, you got a talking to.
Okay.
But it wasn't by a boss in the WWE. It was when I went into when I first got to the dressing room in the Royal Rumble. At the Royal Rumble, it was early in the day. It was like I got there like 1:30.
Wow! And knowing you, King, you hate getting there early.
I hate getting there early, but I did get there early. But because, you know, I mean, we started the pre-show at what, 5?
Yeah.
I think 5 o'clock. And so I got there, and the first person I saw was Mark Henry.
Oh.
And all of a sudden, Mark Henry got like this real serious look on his face, and he says, "I think me and you gonna have to fight."
Oh no.
Yeah.
He's a big guy.
And I said, "You ain't kidding." Fortunately, he was sitting down when I walked up to him. And so then I sat down across from him. I said, "Me and you're going to have to fight about what?" He said, "My friend." I said, "Well, who's your friend?" He said, Pete Rosenberg." Oh. Yeah. And I said, "Well, what about Pete Rosenberg?" He said, "You know, I got him here. I mean," he said, "he's a huge fan." He said, "His house is like a shrine to wrestling." He said, "Everything in his house is wrestling. His whole life is about wrestling."
That's unfortunate.
And he said, you know, and I guess he and Mark were close friends somehow. And Mark, you know, I guess made the introductions or whatever. And he's the guy that got Pete hired up there. Okay. Or at least got him into got his foot in the door. And he said, "He thinks you don't like him." And I said, "No, I don't. I really don't even know Pete." I said, "I've only seen him. I've never really even talked to him or a conversation or anything. I've only seen him on the air." And I said, I guess I was just trying to throw a little conflict into the show, play a little devil's advocate or something. I don't remember. I guess I said about his name, you know. I said, I did mispronounce his name, and I think he took exception to that. And he said, oh, so maybe it's just him being too sensitive. I said, yeah, if he really thinks for real that I don't like him, because I have nothing. I don't have anything against Pete Rosenberg. He's a fine guy, I guess, but we just, we don't hang out together. I don't know him that well. Yeah. I don't know. I guess the best thing to say is I don't know him well enough to dislike him. So yeah, but that was interesting. And then to go on the pre-show and then have Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens say that they didn't like him, and I almost had to stick up for him there on the show.
So Rosenberg went to Mark Henry and and basically cried to Mark Henry saying that Jerry Lawler doesn't like him. Well, I know.
Now wait a minute, hold on now. See, you're stirring the pot. You're adding a little bit. I didn't say that he cried to him. I just said that Mark Henry told me that Pete thinks I don't like him. And I said, no, that's not the case.
Well, I mean, I
so
know.
Say to him and whined and cried. He didn't. We don't know that.
Well, I know. I was listening to somebody sent me a link that Rosenberg was on. Well, I know he does radio up in New York, but he was on a different show talking, and the host of that show, they played a clip of our podcast with you not knowing Peter's name. Rosenbaum. That's going through the different names, not knowing who Rosenberg was, and I really think Pete. The way that Pete was on the show, he legit thinks that you don't like him.
Well, good. I mean, you said yourself, he's on the radio in New York. We don't get New York radio here in Memphis. I don't know that he's on the radio in New York. There are a lot of people on the radio in New York that I don't know about. Yeah. So I don't, and that's one of the things that happens in our business. Everyone assumes that everyone out there knows about you and is up on everything that you do, no matter who. I mean, whether you're a wrestler, whether you're a writer, whether you're a commentator, whatever, and that's just not the case. People have other things that they're into. They just can't, they just can't know everything about everybody. And I just didn't know who the guy was. Right. I wasn't familiar with him.
No,
I'd seen him on the shows and stuff, but that's it.
Yeah. No, I get you. I understand your point. It was we're just having some fun with Peter. That's
yeah. Yeah. So Pete, if you listen to this podcast, you think he does?
I'm sure somebody will tweet at him.
Yeah, and I think if he's as big a fan as Mark Henry told me Pete was, then he probably does listen to a bunch of the podcast through the week. Yeah. Just to kind of stay up on whatever what everybody's saying about the business.
Yeah. So I'm sure he.
So Pete, I have no problem with you. We're good.
Yeah. I think
we're much better. We're much better than me and what's this other guy's name? Sam Roberts.
Sam Roberts.
Now that guy.
He looks like a young Will Ferrell.
No, I don't have any problem with Sam Roberts. Sam's a cool guy too. I don't have any problem with anybody up there. It's funny. I've never, I get along with everybody up there.
Not what I heard, but moving on, King.
Oh yeah, right, here we go.
Moving on, but no. So hopefully, there's no more problems because you don't want Mark Henry on your bad side,
right,
or any side,
right.
So, but the Royal Rumble. So yeah, so you call the men's Royal Rumble. You had some classics.
See, my mind's
going.
Sometimes it gets a little hazy, as you can imagine. We talked last week and addressed the deal about the sleeping.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. People don't believe.
Okay.
People don't believe you though.
Well, I can't help what they believe.
Yeah, they actually think that you and JR were sleeping at the exact same time during the telecast. They actually don't believe what you're. Yeah. They thought there was excuses, but I mean, we talked about that.
I understand that because the first time I saw Triple H there at the Royal Rumble, he said, "Hey King," I said, "Hey Hunter," and he said, "Try to stay awake out there tonight." I said, "Okay." So yeah, it's just like a kind of a joke. And you know what? On that same topic, the first time I saw, I'm walking down the hallway in the back going to catering, and here comes two young ladies walking towards me, and it was Paige and Kelly. Mm. And I hadn't seen Paige in a long time. She comes over, she gives me a hug and everything, and then she starts telling Kelly about the picture, that went out all over the internet of someone took a picture at ringside, which you can, it just depends on the second, no matter what. With the whole time you're out at ringside and you're looking around and no telling what, if they catch it, if they catch that exact second where you're at, what are you laughing at?
I think I know the picture you're talking about, but okay.
Continue. It looked like I was looking at Paige's backside.
Okay.
And I don't really remember that as being the case, but the picture looked like that. And it got, it sailed around the internet everywhere, and she and I had a good laugh about it. And as a matter of fact, we recreated the picture back in the locker room of her looking at my backside.
Right, have some fun with it.
Tweeted that out, right? So anyway, but yeah, that's the kind of stuff that can happen with pictures like that. But let me reassure everybody, I swear this on my mother's grave, and I would never do something like that. Nobody was asleep. At least JR and I were never asleep for 1 second at any time during the 25th anniversary of Monday Night Raw. Just never happened.
And you were really looking at Paige's butt.
I might have been looking at Paige's butt.
There you go. There you go, King.
Don't know.
Well, I don't blame you. But no, Paige is a good sport, though.
Oh my gosh, she looks so pretty, and that was the first time I'd seen her in a long time, and the first time I'd seen Kelly in quite a while too.
Yeah, Kelly. There's we have some questions.
She just really is gorgeous.
We have some questions, and I know you didn't call the Women's Royal Rumble, but there was a question via Twitter when we put out, hey, we're going to be recording the podcast, and they want to know. David Owens wants to know, what was your favorite return in the Women's Royal Rumble?
Oh, you know what? That epitomized the Women's Royal Rumble. Epitomized what I love about Royal Rumbles. I love seeing people from the past and surprise entrants to showing up at Royal Rumbles. And that Women's Royal Rumble was historic and the first time ever. And there was so much pressure on not just the women that performed, probably the majority of it on them, but the pressure was on, the people that put that Royal Rumble together, because you only get one chance to make a good first impression. And that was the first chance that they had. And man, I thought they came through with flying colors, because all of the ladies that they brought back, every one of them looked great and performed great. And then the match itself, gosh, it was just so good. It really was. I was excited about it. I was surprised that they put that on last, but then after seeing the surprise, at the end of the Royal Rumble, then I wasn't surprised. Then it all made sense. But the Women's Royal Rumble itself was just it was great. Now, as far as who was my favorite return, man, I sat in catering with Mark, the Undertaker. He and I talked about a bunch of stuff in catering, but he was there because his wife made her return. And so he came to the show and watched her. She looked fantastic. She did great in the ring. And then sitting right next to Mark and I at the table right next to us was Trish Stratus and Molly Holly, and they were sitting there talking, before the show and catering, and it was crazy. Molly Holly told me, she said, "Jerry, I haven't been in a wrestling ring. I haven't done anything wrestling in 13 years."
Wow. Nothing at all.
Nothing at all. That's what I said. I said the exact words. I said, "Nothing at all?" And she said, "Nothing." And Trish said, "I haven't done anything in a wrestling ring in 8 years."
Wow.
And for those two, I mean, all of the girls, Jacqueline, gosh, who else?
Tori Wilson. Yeah, Beth
Tori
Phoenix.
Wilson. Man, Tori Wilson, she just looked fantastic too. All of them did. That was what was so, so great. They all looked so great, and they all performed so well. It was like just like Molly Holly and Trish, for all of those years, that length of time to be out of the ring and doing nothing as far as in-ring activity, they looked like they just had, they're just like it was turn back the clock to when they were on top every week on Raw or SmackDown. It was just amazing. They were great. My favorite, though, I got to admit, my favorite comeback was Kelly. She's always been one of my all-time favorite divas, and I just enjoyed seeing her come back.
Yeah, we had a Beth Phoenix.
Phoenix
came back. Lita obviously came back too. So we had.
Oh my gosh, yeah. What about Lita?
Yeah, Lita looked great. Yeah, Lita. We had that moment where we had Lita and Trish Stratus, facing off in the middle of the ring.
Well, I'll tell you another thing. I was watching it in the back. I was watching that match in the back with Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle and his wife and I were sitting there watching that, and Jeremy Borash. And so just the four of us were sitting watching the Women's Royal Rumble. And when Lita came out, it was like, I don't know if Kurt didn't know she was going to be in it or what, but Kurt was like genuinely shocked. And he said, "Oh, she's she's still on like no, I think he said no bumps. He said, she can't fall. She can't fall flat back because of her neck. I think she said 4 fusions or something like that, and so no way. And so then I expected, there's a way to go in there knowing that you protect yourself, and the other guys or girls in that case would protect them, and knowing not to do anything that would risk, hurting her neck or anything. But then did you watch Lita's performance?
It was great. She was in there for a while too.
She was in there for a while. She did everything. And Kurt was, promise you, Kurt was screaming like a fan. He was, oh my God, oh no. And the things that she did, she looked like she was as good as ever. And what she did, what was a hurricane back off she did everything that she did during her heyday. Yeah. It was great.
It was fantastic to see her. She was in there. She was in there for, it says 5. She was in there for like 6 minutes. But still, she made 2 eliminations. Becky Lynch eliminated her. Sasha Banks was in there for 54 minutes.
Sasha Banks, she did great as well.
Yeah. It seemed like Lita was in there a lot longer than those 5 minutes.
Yeah, you sure that's right?
No, this is the official times for the Rumble. We had some NXT performers come in. Yeah, but Molly Holly, that was great. Here we are in 2018, King, and we had in the same show, the same pay-per-view, we had the Hurricane and Molly Holly.
Hurricane.
We had Molly Holly on the same show. Here we are in 2018, but that was great. And speaking of the men's Royal Rumble, we had the Hurricane come out, which was a huge surprise.
Yep.
Shane Helms, just I know that when we talked about the Rumble last week, you have no clue who's coming out.
No.
I'm sure you probably saw some guys backstage, but you have no clue the order of who's coming out. So all your...
you know what? I didn't see... the 2 big surprises to me were Shane or Hurricane. I did not see him backstage, so it was a legit surprise. And the other, Rey Mysterio. I didn't see Rey backstage either, so he was a legit surprise.
Well, here's my question. And I know you don't reveal that much, but I have a legit question. When a person does come out, when their music hits, Michael Cole is like right on the money with their, with introducing them, who they are, their nickname, what they've done. Does Cole has to know who's coming out, because it seems like he's right on, given their stats, quote unquote, when the person comes out.
You know what? Honestly, I think Cole does know.
Okay.
When I said that I don't have to go to production meetings, Cole does.
Okay.
Cole goes to production meetings, and he has to. When you're the lead anchor, when you're the main guy, yeah, you have to be ready with all that information. So I'm sure he knows who's coming out next. From 1 to 30. I had no clue. I had no list. I went into this thing so unprepared. It was like I honestly felt like they had forgotten that they had called me and told me to be at the Royal Rumble. Nobody, I talked to people and everything, but nobody in charge. I didn't even speak to anybody in charge all day. And so I finished doing the pre-show, and then I headed up to the gorilla position when the Royal Rumble started, because as you know, the men's Royal Rumble was on the 3rd match. So I had my little, I went and changed into my little old king coat and the crown and all of this stuff, and I went up there and started standing around, and of course the show had started, and then Vince looked over and saw me, and he got up and he came over and said, "Hey King, how are you?" Shook hands real quick, and then he went right back and sat down again, and Michael Cole said, "Hey," and Michael Cole was already out there, and so then I just felt weird. I thought, we're getting close to the time for the Rumble, and nobody had said anything to me, not giving me a run sheet or anything. And so finally I went to Billy Kidman, who kind of, is the guy that kind of runs the times the show and all that sort of stuff. And I said, because now it's time, the Rumble was about to start. And so they're running some kind of package that I said, was I supposed to already be out there, or am I? Where do I go? And so he looks down on the sheet and he goes, "Oh no, you got an entrance. You got your music and entrance and everything." And I just went, "Whew, man." Yeah, I said, "Oh, good. I really am supposed to be here. I haven't just dressed up for nothing and everything." So then right after, just literally right after that, they hit the music and I went out, and I had not talked to anybody. I had not talked to Michael Cole. I had not talked to Corey Graves or anybody about what to say or what to do on the show. Had no clue what order of anything was going to happen. And then I turned one of my little pieces of paper that I took with me out there, turned it over, and I started writing down the names of the people as they came out and what order they were in. And so that's how that thing went.
Wow. Well, that's good for you because they trust, hey, that you're going to be ready no matter what. You don't need someone to go over what to say or anything, that you can.
Well, you know what? You're exactly right. And I thought about that after the show. Like that was one of the things that Kevin Dunn always said about me, that they really liked about me, that I'm low maintenance.
Right.
They don't have to, they don't have to worry about me. They got so many other things that they have to worry about, but they don't have to worry about me on the thing. So right. Yeah, and it turned out good. Kevin Dunn, I always like to ask afterwards, and what he thought of my stuff, and he just sent me back one word, said awesome. So that made me feel real good.
That's good. Well, Stephanie was on commentary for the Women's Royal Rumble, and she had a few one-liners of her own.
Really?
So Sasha Banks, during the match, she screamed out, "I'm ready for Asuka," and Stephanie immediately says, "Sasha says she's ready for Asuka." And then Becky Lynch's outfit. Stephanie said about it, "Becky's outfit means the future." I don't know what that means, though.
Well, that's not exactly a one-liner.
Well, I mean, she had some one-liners that either were good or just, I don't know, made you scratch your head. She also said, "She's the boss. It's lonely at the top, Corey, something you would not know about."
There you go.
That's a good one. So Stephanie had a couple...
zingers. Those would be called zingers.
Corey said, "You know what they say, if you got a back, Sasha's got a knife." And Stephanie goes, Is that really what they say?" But also there was, I go on Reddit. I always, post some links to the show, some transcripts of the podcast if was relevant to today's product. And there, someone had posted, it was headlined Jerry Lawler with one of my favorite calls on the Rumble. And it was one of the top trending, subjects on this Reddit. I know you have no clue what that is.
What is Reddit?
Reddit is like anything you could ever think of, from sports to technology.
No, wait a minute. It doesn't have anything I could ever think of on there, I can assure you.
Nah, King, you would be very surprised.
Oh, really? Okay, I'll need to check out Reddit then.
No, they have everything you can imagine on Reddit. There is a page dedicated to that. But they have obviously a wrestling page, one of the top pages on the site. And there was a thread, a forum dedicated to your calls for the Rumble, and it was one of the top rated posts for the last couple of days on the wrestling forum. And the main one they loved was, when I worked with JR, I called him by his initials, JR, and you can work with Byron, you say BS,
right?
Which was great. And then they have all your little one-liners you had during the night. The hurricane got downgraded to a light drizzle.
Yeah, poor hurricane didn't last too long, did he?
No, he didn't last really long. But it was great to see him. But no one said, "What's up with that?"
I know it. I did, because he was gone so quick. I didn't have time.
But I was upset no one said anything about that. But it was good to see Hurricane. And then you did your classic Jerry Lawler bit. Shades of Bobby the Brain Heenan, always changing your pick throughout the match.
I didn't change my pick, did I?
Yeah, like 6 times. You changed it. You had, I think, Mysterio. You had Cena.
I thought my original pick was John Cena from the get-go, and he lasted all the way. I mean, he was down to the final 4.
Yeah, you said when Cena came out, he goes, "Here's my pick to win the Royal Rumble."
Rumble Royal.
Someone said it reminded them of Mike Tyson watching Stone Cold. Cold Stone, Cold Stone.
Oh man,
I've seen.
Well,
better,
what? Go ahead.
I've seen better film.
What were you going to say? Yeah, well, and I can't remember what I said that about. Somebody said something about being in a movie. They were going to do something. I don't know. Could have been Miz or I don't know. But yeah, that was my standard movie line.
Yeah.
The one thing I sort of got in there, but then it seemed like somebody stepped in. Nothing is worse than when you got a good line that you think is going to be good, and you start into it, and then one of the other guys steps on you. And that can happen a lot when you got 4 people out there, or even 3 people out there,
Right.
But what was my one thing I wanted to get in about John Cena. I said, John Cena really didn't have to be in the Royal Rumble. I said, I mean, come on, he's Ferdinand the Bull in the movies. He's the talking elephant on the commercials on TV. I said, he got in this thing for one reason, and that was to win it. And so I don't know, somebody I think stepped on the end of it. But yeah, a lot of people mentioned that they liked the acknowledging that John Cena was the talking elephant in the TV commercials.
You did call Cesaro Sheamus, or you called Sheamus Cesaro. You mixed up one of those guys. You also told
the action is going so faster than I could talk.
Yeah.
When all those guys are in there.
And then Randy did an RKO. You told him to go for a cover during the Rumble.
Yeah. Well, that was just showing my excitement. I was excited.
But everybody was impressed with they loved your commentary. It was shades a little bit of a heel Jerry Lawler.
Who was that, man? That reminded me. Who was that? Who did Randy do that RKO on where they leaped? They just launched himself all the way across the ring, and then Randy caught him in an RKO. What was that? Who was that?
I know the spot you're talking about.
Oh, it looked awesome, man. The guy just would jump. He comes sailing across there. Who was that?
I'm trying to look at the list of people that could possibly do that. I want to say that was Cien Almas. He's from NXT.
You know what? I think you're right. I think that's who it was.
Yeah, Cien Almas, NXT. He was in there for half an hour. He's the NXT champion.
Yeah, he did a good showing.
Yeah, he was a surprise entrant. Other surprise entrants, like we said, the Hurricane, Adam Cole. He's from NXT, and there really wasn't. Well, Dolph Ziggler, just because
Dolph at the end, yeah. That was a cool surprise because you hadn't seen Dolph in a while. But then, I don't know, it was almost like wasn't that much done with him.
Biggest surprise of the night for the men's was Rey Mysterio coming back.
Yeah. God, did he look awesome or what?
Looked amazing.
He needs to be like they got John Cena being the spokesperson for what are those nuts? Macadamia? What kind of nuts is he doing? Pistachios, yeah. Well, I mean, Rey Mysterio needs to be the Copper Tone spokesperson.
So tan.
What a tan he had.
How old do you think Rey Mysterio is?
I would say that Rey is 38, 39.
He's 43.
Is he really?
Yeah, 43 years old. Just turned 43 in December. So is he? I know. He's like the Tom Brady. Yeah. He's a former WB champion in WCW, ECW. He's on independent scene. Is he back? Do you know if he's back full time or is that just a one-off?
I don't know. I hope he is.
Yeah,
I hope he is.
He was great. He had a great showing. He was only in there for a short time though, but still, he was. That was probably the biggest men's surprise.
I wish I'd known he was 43. I would have had some one-liners about that.
What could you have said?
I would have said, "Oh my gosh, there's Ray. The first time he flew to one of his matches, the Wright brothers were the pilots." What?
Oh my God! So when you're always nugging on Nakamura, where's Nakamura been hiding? Because he was.
I don't know if you noticed this, but I never said his last name one time.
No, you should. You kept saying.
I kept saying Shinsuke.
Saying what?
Because that was huh?
What were you saying?
Shinsuke.
Oh, okay.
For some reason, I have trouble saying Shinsuke Nakamura all at once, so I just stuck with Shinsuke.
There was a couple times I thought you were saying something else when you said his name.
Not during the Royal Rumble. Back in the past.
There was one. I got a few tweets about it. They're like, "Is he saying what I think he's saying?"
No, you did not. That was in the past.
That would have been bad. But no,
I did butcher his name one time on a pre-show.
Yes, you did. Yeah, you had some trouble. You were fumbling around, but I don't blame you because it's if you don't know it, you're just looking at it. It's hard to say.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the biggest.
Oh, and that's like Asuka.
Yeah, Asuka.
Is that how you pronounce that?
Yes, you were right. Right on the
But
money.
when you look at it on paper, it looks nothing like Asuka.
No, not at all.
I think there's even a U in there or something.
But we had Nakamura and we had Asuka, both win their respective.
Oh yeah,
rumbles.
What about that?
Yeah, so you have you're gonna have Nakamura facing AJ Styles, and you're gonna have Asuka facing off against either Alexa Bliss or Charlotte Flair. So
She has not announced yet, right? Because her announcement, which we thought we were going to see, was interrupted by the appearance of Ronda Rousey.
Ronda Rousey. Yeah. So really quick before we get to Rousey, yeah. So there's going to be the first ever women's elimination chamber match.
Man, oh man, these girls are doing it right, aren't they?
Yeah,
That's
and it's going to be.
You know what? Wait, and before we get to that, I want to go back and mention. You were asking me who my favorite returns were. Maybe, and I forgot the main one probably that I may have even liked more than Kelly. Vicky Guerrero.
Excuse me.
Vicky Guerrero came back screaming, "Excuse me," at the top of her lungs, and actually got in and was thrown out of the Royal Rumble. That was something.
Yeah, that was great. That was another surprise. Her come back. That was great. The women's. You're right. I mean, there was so many different surprises. It adds that, and the men's didn't really have that many. They had a few.
No, that's the thing. I wish that the men's would do that. I wish they would have, out of the 30, I wish they would have at least 10, people bring back people, surprise people or whatever out of the 30 every year. I wish they would do it like at 10. But this year, I mean, they made up for it in nonstop action. The action was good. I don't remember any like a lull or anything where something wasn't going on during that Royal Rumble match. It was just good.
Remember when? I mean, this is 2010. You and John Cena were going insults with Vicky Guerrero.
Oh.
That was a classic Raw.
One of my favorite shows of all time.
And then you embarrassed, I think, Vicky Guerrero during a Slammy Awards ceremony back in the day. So Vicky has always been one of your favorite targets. So that was fun. But yeah, so Ronda Rousey and King instantly, I think she becomes the biggest superstar in the WWE, man or woman. At least in my eyes. I think of her.
I can't argue with you. No, I can't argue with that.
You have John Cena. I mean, Cena is John Cena. But even with her, even with Ronda Rousey, her reach is.
You're talking about maybe. I guess maybe you should add word crossover star. I mean, she's somebody that's known almost to everybody. Her name at least. Whereas I don't know, man. Hey, John Cena, good grief, movie star, TV commercials, everything that John Cena's done. He's up there. He's as well known as Ronda Rousey.
Right. Yeah, I would almost put him
outside. Outside the wrestling world.
But at least she's going to bring a lot of of her fans, UFC fans, to watch WWE now because we want to see her. And she did an interview saying this is not just a one-time appearance or. I'm just going to do WrestleMania and you're not going to see me. She is full-time. She wants to be a full-time WWE superstar.
Yeah, and I read what the what's the UFC guy's, the head honcho there?
Dana White.
Yeah, Dana White. I read what he wrote about her, and he said, that he's so happy for her because he knew throughout her entire UFC career that she was always a wrestling fan.
Right.
Has always loved the WWE. And so yeah, he said, he feels like she's where she belongs now. And so that's really cool.
I once took 2 chops from Ronda Rousey.
Pork chops?
No, chops. Like chops across the chest. Ric Flair chops.
No way. You took chops from Ronda Rousey?
Took 2 chops from Ronda. She was here, up in Cleveland. And she was at a wrestling show, the local AIW in Cleveland, because her friend, part of the 4 Horsewomen, Shayna Baszler, was wrestling for AIW, and it was UFC weekend up in Cleveland. And Ronda, wanted to come watch, her friend wrestle. So she came there, and we hung out for like 4 or 5 hours. Ronda Rousey is, I'm sorry, King, but Ronda Rousey is probably the coolest celebrity I ever, I've interviewed a lot of people, but she was probably the coolest celebrity. She was so down to earth. And we were like backstage, and she was drinking a little bit, and yeah, and I was too, and I'm like, you should. I want you to chop me across the chest, chop me. She goes, no, I'm gonna hurt you. I'm like, you better. I got like right in her face. I'm like, you better chop me right now. And she first one, she kind of held back, and I'm like, that was a wuss one. And she stepped up and she chopped me as hard as she can. Oh. And I swear, King, I was bruised on my chest for a few days afterwards.
Well, you asked for it. That's good.
But it was great. No, she was great. Ronda was. I'm very happy for her. So there's my Ronda Rousey story. But so hopefully we see more Ronda Rousey. And of course, we all know what happened at WrestleMania between her and Triple H and Stephanie and The Rock. So maybe that could be come back to fruition for WrestleMania. You never know.
Yeah, I really expected to see Ronda on Monday Night Raw last night to kind of explain, all of this stuff that we're talking about, her first appearance and everything. But she wasn't on the show. Yeah. So we still have to wonder, what she meant. She certainly pointed. I don't think we have to wonder. I think it was actually, pretty well right there in black and white. She pointed at the WrestleMania sign, implying that she's going to be there. And then she looked at all 4 different individuals out there. She looked at the 2 champions, and then she looked at the Royal Rumble winner, and then she went over and shook hands with Stephanie. So I think that's, the suspense is there. Everybody's wondering, do we know? I think we could pretty well assume that Ronda Rousey is going to compete at WrestleMania, but against who?
Yeah, hopefully we find out soon, but we'll go for Ronda to see, and hopefully it brings more viewership to Monday Night Raw. And this is not just a one-off for her. She means business. She wants to really put the time and effort. And there was one quote that really stood out was she told Triple H, there's a lot of things I can do that make me more money, but this is what I'm going to be the most, probably the happiest doing. And like you mentioned, she's a huge wrestling fan, so hopefully they, she does right. And also,
I can assure you that Ronda Rousey, if she may have told Triple H, there's a lot of things that she could do that could make her more money. She'll be making plenty of money in the WWE, I promise you.
Yeah, they already have merch for her, and we all know, Roddy Piper, said that he.
Yeah, what a story that was. That was one of the things. I didn't even realize that. I didn't know that when she came out there, that she was wearing a Roddy Piper's original jacket, and then she gave it back to Rowdy's son after the show.
Yeah,
that's cool.
And she has her own merch now. Roddy Piper, font, the same kind of the red collar, white shirt. As Piper. So, and I know some people are confused about that. Wondering why she, people are saying she stole that, but no, that was passed on from Roddy himself to Ronda Rousey a few years ago before a UFC fight. And of course, there was a video of her, her hugging and like you said, giving back the coat to Piper's son. So it's that's all embraced. That's all on that front. That's all well and done. So, a couple questions here before we wrap it up.
Oh no, we're not wrapping up yet.
Oh no,
we got a ways to go. We got some things to talk about.
What?
Yeah, go ahead. What's the question?
All right, a couple questions. Wow, King is in a talkative mood today here.
Oh, I got something to get off my chest.
Oh boy, okay. Is it about me?
In a roundabout way, you're going to know all about it and should be able to chime in on it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Frank from Montreal wants to know, what is your best Royal Rumble memory? I don't think it has to concern you per se, but just your one that sticks out in your mind. That's the best.
Gosh,
there's been so many. Have you called or been a part of?
You know what? This. And I know this sounds cheesy, but this particular one was my favorite to call. It really was. I do always remember a couple of things. I remember, the one where I was calling it with Vince McMahon, and my music hit, and I jumped up mid-sentence and climbed up on the apron, jumped into the ring, got caught with a uppercut from Bret the Hitman Hart, and jumped, flew right back over the ropes out onto the floor, then immediately ran back over and sat down and finished my sentence that I was saying to Vince. That may be one of my favorite memories of, something that I don't think anybody else has ever done. So that may be one of my favorite memories. And then, of course, hiding under the ring and getting to spend a long time just sneaking around that was remembered by a lot of people, hiding under the ring for a long period of time in one of the Rumbles. I saw where I got eliminated. That was kind of cool to have in the Royal Rumble package, the pre-package, to see me get eliminated by Kurt Hennig, who, of course, I had just right before I came to the WWE, I'd beaten Kurt Hennig for the AWA World Title, and then he got his revenge there by eliminating me in the Royal Rumble that year. So a lot of memories, but just calling this past one was one of my favorites.
And he says, congrats on one of your 6 picks winning the Rumble.
Yes. What about that?
Yeah, you're 1 out of 6 ain't bad.
6, man.
This longtime fan of the show, PJ16238 on Twitter. She wants to know if I were in the Royal Rumble, how long do you think I would last, King?
Oh, you'd be in there a while.
Well,
I think you could really.
Well, I wonder why.
Because we talked about this at the beginning of the show, your sheer size. I mean, it would take a straw. I think you would put Braun Strowman to the test to pick you up and throw you over the top rope.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, he can turn over an 18-wheeler, but I don't know if he can pick you up.
Well, then I would win, and I'll be going to WrestleMania.
Yeah, that's what I said. You would last a long time in the Royal Rumble.
Well, maybe one day. If Drew Carey can get in the Royal Rumble, I can get in the Royal Rumble.
Isn't that the truth?
Drew Carey.
The truth?
There's
and then he makes it into the celebrity wing of the Hall of Fame.
When Drew Carey.
Hey, you know what? Speaking of Drew Carey and people in the celebrity wing of the Hall of Fame, I get asked all the time about Andy Kaufman. When is Andy Kaufman going to be inducted into the celebrity wing of the Hall of Fame? And I don't know. I'm sure not this year. I think they would have asked me something about it if that were the case. But I certainly think that he's deserving. I think, if that one appearance can get Drew Carey in there, then, what all Andy did involved with wrestling, even though it wasn't in the WWE, should certainly qualify him to be in the celebrity wing of the Hall of Fame. And I told you, we talked about this before we went on the air on the podcast. The day before the Royal Rumble, I did a signing, a meet and greet. Me and Corey Graves were doing an autograph signing at the old ECW arena there in Philadelphia. And nothing really much about that other than the fact that I have never had so many people come up to me and say and ask me about the Netflix documentary, Jim and Andy, The Great Beyond, with Jim Carrey. Man, it seems like everybody has seen that. And when I got to the Royal Rumble, I had a couple of the WWE writers came up to me and asked me about it. And it's just like, that has opened so many people's eyes about what kind of went on with between Jim Carrey and Andy Kaufman. Of course, Jim didn't ever meet Andy, but as far as Jim channeling, he claimed that he channeled the persona of Andy Kaufman for those 80 days where he went into character and it didn't come out, and then that's what's talked about and that's what's shown in this documentary, the behind the scenes shooting of that movie. And but a lot of people have seen that. Have you seen that yet?
Of course, we told you the whole podcast about it, King.
Oh, man, you got to remind me of this stuff. I can't remember what we do. How many podcasts have we done so far?
This is 44.
Amazing. 44. That's like a minimum. You and I have spent 44 hours at a minimum talking to each other.
Yeah. Is that bad?
Oh my God. Is that bad?
Bad? No.
Spend that much time talking to my fiance. Okay. 44 hours.
Yeah, that's great. People love the podcast. People always getting tweets about the podcast. So
yeah.
Okay. So what do you want to rant about, King?
Well, I just mentioned it, sort of. Cleveland Indians.
Oh boy.
Oh man, I'm hot.
You're hot.
I am steamed over this.
Okay. Well, I know you and I have talked about this, on the phone
You
privately.
live in Cleveland. You live in Cleveland. You know what goes on up there. I've been a lifelong Cleveland Indians fan since my family moved up there in 1957. And we lived up there for 8 years, and I became a diehard Indians and Browns fan and have remained one ever since. And now, just this past week, just a couple of days ago, they made the announcement that they are doing away with Chief Wahoo, the little Indian logo that we've known since 1947. He was a logo 2 years before I was even born, and all this time, and now he's racist.
Now this is his last year. 2019 is when they'll get rid of it on the uniforms. It'll still be available for purchase.
Oh, wait a minute. What do you mean it'll still be available for purchase? Is that what they're saying in Cleveland?
Yeah, you'll be able.
Even after 2019, they'll make merchandise, shirts, and hats with Chief Wahoo's logo on it.
It won't be available. I think souvenirs. It'll be on souvenirs. But it won't be on the MLB website, and it's only going to be available to people in Northeast Ohio. Like the Northeast Ohio stores, like Lids, who make hats. I think third-party shops, they can still sell Chief Wahoo, the licensing for Chief Wahoo. But it won't be on the uniforms or any kind of.
So we've seen the last. Is the logo of Chief Wahoo going to be on the uniform this year?
Yeah, this is the last year for it.
And that's the last time we'll see his little smiling face.
So you're hot. You're hot about that.
I'm very upset. I mean, I've told everybody before. That's one of the reasons that I voted for Donald Trump was just the one time he said somewhere when he was running, he said, we don't have time for all this political correctness. And I said, that is the truest statement I've ever heard. This political correctness crap that's going on in the world today, everything is going to offend somebody. But now we're so sensitive to offending anybody that it's just become ridiculous. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And this is like, to me, the epitome of that. I mean, a logo that's been around since 1947, a little cartoon character offends enough people that a Major League Baseball team is going to remove it, do away with it, ban it forever, just because it offends a few people.
It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. Anyway,
it's been obviously it's part of my childhood, and I only wear Chief Wahoo memorabilia, and I think this will I wouldn't say backfire, but I think you'll see more people in the coming years wear Chief Wahoo, and I think everybody will, buy it off the shelves because people want to have that Chief Wahoo shirt or hat or any kind of thing that had the Chief Wahoo logo on it. So I think you'll see more people wear Chief Wahoo, especially this year, and also I think next year too, and the years beyond that too. I'm not a fan of the Block C. I've never been a fan of that. So it's going to be, I think you're going to see more people with Chief Wahoo. I don't think it's going to, be fading out as people would think that. With fans.
Yeah, we went.
Excuse me. It's got you all choked up, King. This whole subject got you choked up.
I know. Well, I'm sorry. I really do. I get upset over this. I mean, we went through a similar situation. Of course, we're here in Memphis, Tennessee. I think a few weeks ago you saw this going on when you were down here. For I don't know 100 years or so, there more than 100 years, I guess. There's been no, it hadn't been there that long, but anyway, it's been there a long time. There's two parks in Memphis, Tennessee, and they both not housed, but it featured prominently in the middle of the park were statues. One was a big statue of Nathan Bedford Forrest, who was a Confederate general in the Civil War. And then there was another one downtown, but this particular park was called Confederate Park. So, it's like for years now, they've been wanting to change the name and get rid of the name Confederate Park, just, do away with that part of history. And they did that. They changed the name a few years ago, but then up until just recently, the statue of Nathan Bedford Forrest remained there, mainly because it's actually a gravesite. Nathan Bedford Forrest and his wife are actually buried beneath that statue. But still, a portion of the people here in Memphis, were adamant about getting rid of the statue. And so they did some kind of fluky thing where the city of Memphis sold the park itself, sold the land and the park to some hastily created organization. They sold this big entire park for $1,000 without any advertising, without telling anybody they were going to do it. They did it in the evening after courts had closed and everything. They sold the park to some individual for $1,000, and then that individual immediately that night had crews come out and remove the statue, because then it was his own private property and he could do anything he wanted to with it. So then they removed the statues, which they've been complaining about for years and all of that sort of thing. And of course, I mean, there really was not that big an uproar over it like I thought it was going to be. But I just wanted to say to all of those people that said they were offended by the statue, now it's been gone here in Memphis for a month or so, or maybe a little more than that. And I want to ask them, how has that changed your life? How has that made your life better? I mean, we still wake up every morning here and turn on the TV and find out how many people have been murdered or what the crime rate is and all this, because nothing has changed about the city. And what I want to ask the people, that were all upset about Chief Wahoo, next year after he's gone, how is that going to change your life? How is that going to make your life better?
Hey, how about we help the veterans who are homeless after fighting for our country? How about we help those people out rather than worrying about a logo for a baseball team? Right, exactly. Anyway, there's my rant, and I got that off my chest. And I'm like you, though. I'll be wearing my Chief Wahoo. And somebody, what did you say that somebody said that now if you continue to wear merchandise with Chief Wahoo on it, then they'll know you're a racist? Yeah, that was, there was a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people who are upset that they're going to take away Chief Wahoo. I would say it's over 80% of the people. But this is even goes for issues in the country today. The silent majority of people, who are in the 80%, they just don't speak it because they're afraid of the backlash for it. But if you wear a Chief Wahoo hat now, they'll label you as a racist because you support a racist logo. Right. Well, which is absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. And I thought people who are compassionate and care about people, they wouldn't label people like that if they didn't know who they are. Exactly. I don't get that. But I'm with you, King. How does that change lives? Like you said, right. How is that going to change anybody's life after Chief Wahoo's gone? It's not going to make anybody's life better. It's not going to make any changes in anything. It's just, attention grabbing for these people that do this kind of thing. And if you don't like it, don't watch an Indians game. If you don't like it, don't go to that park. If you don't like a show, you don't want a movie, I don't watch the movie or show. I'm not going to go make a petition to cancel it. I'm just not going to watch it. So I know a lot of people are probably upset. Well, not a lot of people. I'm sure we'll get a few hate tweets from people who listen to the podcast that disagree with our opinion. And I mean, for me, King, I'm not sure what you're going to say, but I say to those people, if you don't like it, don't listen to the podcast anymore. There you go. I agree. Everybody's got their opinion, and those people whose opinion is, their opinion is if you wear Chief Wahoo logo after next year, then you're a racist. Well, that's their opinion. But you know what? My opinion is that Chief Wahoo is not racist, and my opinion is just as important as their opinion. So they're like noses. Everybody's got one. Everybody got one, and we have the right to wear whatever we want to wear. Right. Thank goodness. That's why we live in the country that people have fought for, preserving our freedom, and they have their opinion. They are, they can say whatever they want to say, but we can also say if you want to tweet at us and say that you disagree, well, don't listen to the podcast anymore. See you later. Right. So, well, hey, what do you got going on this weekend, King? As we wrap it up. Oh, this weekend, man, Friday,
this Friday, I'm going to be down in, excuse me, I'm still choked up. This Friday, I'm going to be down in, right outside of Birmingham, Alabama. There's a hockey team down there owned by a good friend of mine, for years, Art Clarkson. He owns a team now called the Burlington Bulls. It's in Pelham, Alabama, which is, just like a little outskirts of Birmingham. And I'm going to be down there at their hockey game on Friday, dropping the first puck and signing and doing a meet and greet and signing some autographs, taking some pictures with people. And who knows, somebody may get hit. Some hockey player may get hit with a metal folding chair or something. Something like that usually happens at these hockey games. I don't know. But I'm going to be doing that Friday. Then Saturday night, I'm going to be up in Covington, Tennessee. Every year they have a yearly fundraiser up in Covington, the big wrestling show that the whole town turns out for. I'm going to be wrestling one of the Moondogs. Ooh. You thought they were all dead, didn't you?
Thought so too, but apparently not.
One has resurfaced. I don't know which one he is, but I saw his picture on the poster, and he just looks like all the other Moondogs have always looked. So I'm going to be up there. Brian Christopher, Grandmaster Sexy is going to be up there. Dangerous Doug Gilbert, a big all-star card in Covington. That's this Saturday. And then that's it for me till the following week. We'll talk about that next week.
Hey, really quick, I had dinner with, we'll watch the Rumble with X-Pac in Chicago.
Yeah, I heard that.
On Sunday. And I know we talked about X-Pac on last week's show. X-Pac's a huge fan. He loves the old school stuff, big fan of yours. And we had dinner. We talked about some Memphis wrestling. And he wanted me to ask you a question for the show. And we talked about it before we recorded, but he wanted to know all these, great matches that you had in Memphis, and he watched these on YouTube. He wants to know, through all these great matches and matchups and all these different, stars coming in, how come the ring looks so poorly presented? Why is that?
Oh man. Well, I'll tell you what. In Memphis, that was back in the day that it wasn't like times are now. I'm trying to think when I first even saw turnbuckle covers. Other than they used to just tape the turnbuckles, and that's why it was really you didn't like to be thrown into the turnbuckles back in those days. They just used to they tape the ropes with whatever kind of tape they had. A lot of times it turned out just being like duct tape, colored duct tape or something like that. They tape the ropes, and then they just go right over and tape the turnbuckle, which was that was like the only padding there was to it. And then somewhere, I think after WWE got on cable and everything, they invented these nice, fancy, pretty turnbuckle covers. And I know probably our company couldn't even afforded those to have back in the day, but I don't know. We just never thought of it. And our ring guy that usually took care of our ring was Buddy Wayne. And I don't know if that was not a top priority of him to make. I don't even know if anybody ever thought, hey, the turnbuckles don't look so hot. I don't know. It was just a part of a gritty, rougher feel back in the day. It was something we didn't give much thought to.
Yeah, that was one thing that he really was upset about. He was legit upset about the poorly presented.
I'm going to ask him. I can't imagine that X-Pac is sitting there watching an old Memphis tape of maybe say me and Macho Man Randy Savage or Joe LeDuc picking me up and throwing me out over under the table, or pile driving Andy Kaufman or something, and X-Pac going, hey, look how shabby those turnbuckles look. Well, you got to really be nitpicking to do something like that.
Well, he did.
I know. Hey, he's a great guy. No. What about did you see his puppy?
Dog? We hung out. Yeah, I actually had to hold this puppy for a while during his appearance. I handled his merch for him for the appearance, and the puppy would walk around, and he wanted to keep her one spot, so I had to hold on to her. She's just so cute. It's an instant attention magnet. People instantly flock to the puppy, no matter who was holding it. But we had King. If you think I eat a lot, X-Pac eats double what I eat.
Really?
We went to Miller's Pub in Chicago. It was late, and he ordered. At a pub, they usually give you, it's big burgers. He ordered 2 burgers. 2 burgers, King.
And he's thin. So, well, not really thin, but he's not, he doesn't look like he would be a big eater.
He ate. I mean, he didn't eat the bread, but he had he had the patties, he had the sides, and he had a shrimp cocktail.
Jeez.
And I had a patty melt. That's all I had was a patty melt. This guy's down in 2 burgers. The lady brings out 2 separate plates for these burgers and the shrimp cocktail. And X-Pac doesn't work. He said he doesn't work out that much, and he looks amazing.
Yeah, I really like him. Sean's a great guy. He really is, and I'm glad he listens to the podcast. And that was I got to spend some time with him at the Raw 25th anniversary show, and he's always a fun guy to talk to because he is. You know what? He's like me. He's a big wrestling fan, like you say.
Yeah, it was great. So that's my X-Pac story. So. All right, King. Any final words before we wrap it up? I know you plugged your appearances.
No, I can't think of anything else.
Go Chief Wahoo.
Nah, I'm just looking on Facebook right now, and I see here's the first thing that pops up is from Fox News, and it's the Fox News talking about the Cleveland Indians logo, which had been in use since 1947, has been deemed racist and offensive by critics. And the Cleveland Indians will abandon Chief Wahoo logo next year.
As a kid, I used to go to opening day, and I would have my dad would call my school and say, "Oh, Glenn has Indian fever, and he won't be coming in today." But I would be going down the opening day because it was always, during a school day in the afternoon. And I remember, always walking to the ballpark, there would be a group of 10 to 15 Chief Wahoo protesters, and every year that group did not grow. It was always just a handful,
right.
10 people there.
Attention getters, just out there for attention.
Yeah, and that's what I always remember. And I always just remember, every year it seemed not to grow.
Do you remember, the old Indians ballpark down on Lake Erie there, the old municipal stadium? Do you remember the sign of the Cleveland Indian of Chief Wahoo, and it showed, had his whole body, and he's holding the bat, swinging the bat, and everything.
Yeah.
Man, wonder where that sign is.
That sign is actually, I think it's in either a brewery or it's in a museum. It's preserved. It lights up still. It's actually, I'll find out and send you a text about it. But it's actually still functioning, and they still show it off. So.
Man, that was one of the. I have an Indians hat that has that that design, that logo on it, on the front of it, of him him swinging the bat. That's so cool. I used to love to drive by the stadium or drive up to the stadium and see that Chief Wahoo sign.
During the baseball year, at my parents' house when I was growing up, we had a wood painted carve out of Chief Wahoo's face. We had a smiling one, the one that you always known to see. But we also had a frowning Chief Wahoo. And my job in the morning was to change. If the Indians won the previous day, we kept up the smiling Chief Wahoo. If the Indians lost the previous day, we would put in the frowning Chief Wahoo. So if you drove past our house, the last game Indians play if they won or not, just by the wood carve-out in the window of Chief Wahoo. So, yeah,
well, that's one of the things. The Plain Dealer, for years and like 30 years before Chief Wahoo came into existence, the Cleveland Plain Dealer, which is the Cleveland newspaper there, that's what they would do every day. They had an artist a cartoonist that would draw a little picture of an Indian, and he would depict every morning. You'd look at the front page, and that's how you would know what the Indians had done. They'd either have him, smiling or waving his tomahawk, or have him frowning, or whatever. And he would do a different cartoon for the outcome of each game during the baseball season. And that predated Chief Wahoo by 30 years. But just. Anyway, we've talked enough about that.
If they would change the name Indians, because that's next, what people are going to try to change. If they go to Cleveland something else, will you still be a fan of Cleveland baseball or no?
If they're no longer called the Indians?
Yeah, they're called something else.
Well, that's like when the Browns, the team moved to Baltimore. No, I did not become a Baltimore fan. And I waited till the Browns got to come back to Cleveland. If they just changed the name but kept the team there in Cleveland, I don't know. My loyalties is Northeast Ohio because that's where, as a kid, I spent 8 years up there and fell in love with that part of the country. So I don't know. And you, like you said, that's going to come next. But I mean, they haven't been able to change the name of the Washington Redskins. And if you talk, I mean, that would be much more offensive than a team being called the Indians, because even Indians refer to themselves as Indians. That can't be offensive.
Or Native Americans.
No, they say Indians.
Mm-hmm.
They say you're a Cherokee Indian.
No, I agree. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate. No, I totally agree. But I remember a lot of media was like, well, we're not going to say Redskins in our coverage. We're going to say Washington. Well, that didn't last long.
No.
So, well, we'll see.
I don't think they'll do away with the name.
All right, we talked about a lot of different topics on this week's show. King had his well, I think his first official rant on the show. I was like,
you think that's my first rant?
Well, legit hot rant. I would think so. I mean, you had little tangents here and there, but not like a full rant about something. I'm sure someone will respond. All right, King. We'll talk to you next week. You can find the show on Spotify, iTunes. We're on everywhere. If you have a Alexa, you can or a Google Home, you can just say, "Hey, play Dinner with the King podcast," like King does at his house, and it'll come up instantly. And we're on YouTube. We're on every podcast platform out there. So tell your friends.
I wish I'd look. Go ahead and finish, but I'm looking down now at my phone, and I'm just looking on Facebook, and I see this thing comes up that says, I wish we had talked about this earlier. There's a picture of Greg Valentine sitting, and he's got his shirt off, and his stomach looks really big and everything. And it says, this thing says, Greg Valentine said women have no place in wrestling today. It doesn't look like he does either.
Oh, jeez. I seen him at a couple of conventions, and he just looks so sad when he's sitting there by himself.
Well, you know what? It's like that. It's like that scene in the movie The Wrestler.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of thing really. People ask me a lot of times, "Hey, is the movie The Wrestler? Is that real?" And I said, some parts of it is very much like that. There comes a time. Time marches on, and it happens to everybody, not just in wrestling. It happens to all athletes or movie stars or singers or whatever. That your glory days pass you by, but it's hard to accept that. So guys still want to be think that there's still some limelight out there for them.
But King, you never have a problem with that because you always have a long line when it comes to merch and people want to talk to you.
Well, I've been fortunate. I've been lucky so far that, and I think that's I don't know if that's marketing yourself or whatever it is to do. But I mean, I've some of these guys that are in lines like that, they aren't really employed anymore. They're really relying on their past glory. Fortunately, I've been able to stay employed and still be relevant in the fact that, hey, I'm still doing shows and I'm still in the WWE and that sort of thing. But that's just a part of life. That's just part of life. But now, like we say, everybody has a voice, and here's somebody on Facebook has put up a thing here called 15 washed up wrestlers that we don't feel sorry for anymore.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And the first one, there's two guys pictured on this. One is Greg Valentine and the other is Sid Vicious.
Who's on you're not on this list, right?
I don't, you know what? I haven't gone through it simply because it's one of those, I've seen some in the past. It's one of those where, you have to click on every single one to go through the 15, and it changes pages, and you got to wait for a 30-second ad on each one. So it just takes too long to go through that for me. But I did go through one that I got upset about where it said, I think I mentioned this to you last week. It said the 15 coolest cars that wrestlers own, right? And they're going through, and they didn't even have me listed with my Batmobile in there. They had things like Hummers and different cars that were not really all that cool. So I don't put much credence in these things anymore.
Well, I'm on the list right now, and the list is Ken Shamrock, Sid Vicious, Brutus Beefcake, Lanny Profo, Hulk Hogan.
Hulk Hogan?
Yeah.
I wouldn't feel sorry for him either. Bazillionaire.
I know. Lacey Von Erich. The Dynamite Kid.
Who is Lacey Von Erich? Who is that? Oh, his daughter.
Yeah, the daughter of Kerry Von Erich.
Okay, who else?
The Dynamite Kid, Shane Douglas, Scott Steiner, JBL, Bret Hart.
What?
Yeah, JBL.
JBL.
Bret Hart, Billy Gunn, Greg Valentine, and number 1, Hugh Morris.
Who is Hugh Morris?
He's Hugh Morris. Remember, I forget what's his real name. He's an NXT coach. I got fired because he supposedly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he did some questionable.
Oh,
stuff.
okay. So that's why they say these are guys that we don't feel sorry for anymore. So obviously they feel like all of those 15 wrestlers have done something that has offended somebody in the past.
Right. Bill DeMott. That's his name. Bill DeMott.
Yeah, Bill DeMott. Okay, yeah, that's what I know.
Well, you're on the list. That's good.
Yeah, no kidding.
All right, King. We'll talk to you next week. We'll talk to everybody next week. And
get out of here.
And enjoy your week, and we'll talk to you later.
Pay your tab.
The preceding show is a Pod Avenue production.